Hi, so Kathy was asking how long it took me to habituate. And that's not an answer that I can give real clearly, but I can remember some of the time periods that I went through. So, for example, I don't know the exact date. I got COVID on January 1st. I started having symptoms around the 31st of the last year or the 1st. And then I couldn't sleep. And I got some medication. And I also had wax in my ear. So those are three things that all could have caused COVID. Sometime around the 7th or somewhere in there of January 2021, I started to have the ringing in the ear. And I had just gone through 5 days with no sleep. Literally 5 days with no sleep, and that's another story. And then I got the tinnitus, and then the sleep was just awful. So I quickly studied on Google, and I figured out, well, you got to put some sound in the background. So I would try to meditate to the sound and stuff like that. I would put the sound right by my head when I was trying to go to sleep, and I went at least 3 months of just awful sleep, carrying the laptop with the sound around to wherever I went and trying to do anything to not think about it. So that first 3 months approximately was super awful. And I would get on average 2 or 3 hours of sleep per day. I started to get more like 3 and 4 after 3 months. It took up until maybe going into 5 months. I started to get 6 hours occasionally, but usually like 2 to 4. And that's awful, not being able to sleep for such a long period of time. So I had a very, very strong case of insomnia. And I would scream in the middle of the night. I would go walk outside. I would try to wear myself out, get so tired from exercise that I needed to sleep, and nothing was working. And I would just be so anxious. I moved to a new place to get away from the COVID apartment sometime in May. So that was about 5 months later. And I remember just being afraid. I remember we couldn't get the cable set up where I would get an internet connection so that I could play the sound that I needed to hear for sleep, and being really freaked out about that. Ended up choosing a different cable company on the day of move-in just so I could get it that day so I could have sound in my house. And I went on for, a few more months where I would say like it was horrible and I would have bad days, but I was starting to cope, but not really realizing that I was starting to cope yet. Because I was doing things like we have a pool, and there's a waterfall by the pool, and I would go spend a lot of time near that waterfall because it would mask the sound. And I would try to talk to neighbors and things like that, and I was still in a really bad place for at least another 3 or 4 months. And I'm trying to think, sometime after I had moved here, which would have been after May, probably started to get about 11 or 12 months from now. What is this, August? So somewhere around July or August, maybe, I started to make videos here on this channel. So that would have been at the 8-month point. And at that point, I had just determined that I was going to just go after it from the subconscious point of view, and I was going to love tinnitus, and I was going to be okay with it. And so at that point, somewhere around the 8-month point, I started to have better days, but I was far from being in a great place. I remember trying to meditate and it just not going well. I remember exercising and getting some, like, what do you call it? My ear would feel clogged up. I since haven't had that. So I don't know what's going on there. And then being really paranoid about that, and then I was doing the eardrops a lot, hoping somehow that would help something. It didn't do anything, And then you could study some of my videos, but you'll see, like, I had a video about I finally took a nap. I had gone a year approximately with not taking a nap at all ever, and just hoping I would sleep at night better. And also, I started to come off of I was taking a sleep medication, and my sleep started improving. And then I weaned myself off the sleep medication. And I would say that was kind of a turning point for me also, was when my sleep started getting better, my anxiety started getting better, and I was in a better place to address the tinnitus. I would say I got off the sleep medication, I'm just guessing, sometime around a year later. So around the first of the year of 2022, I got off the sleep medication. And then another couple months later, I had gotten off of Zoloft, which is an antidepressant. The drug history is a whole nother story. I had taken Ativan a lot early on because that was the only thing that would give me an hour or two of sleep. And I took some other Tramadol was the one that could have given me tinnitus very early on. I forget what you call it. And I tried some other things, and then, but the Ativan, which is not such a good drug because you can get really addicted to it. I took that for a while, but then they kept telling me you've got to take Zoloft, and I was like, so I got to take two things? Yeah, and you need to take the sleep medication too. So I was taking like three things, and it took a while for the Zoloft to kick in. I guess I had been on Zoloft about a month or two when I moved here in May of 2021, and I'd say the Zoloft started working, going into the next few months. And I finally got off the Zoloft, I think around February of 2022. And then I was off of all medications. So that's why you'll hear me say, I think that the medications can kind of help you get to a good place. But I sure never have been a proponent of using drugs. I never thought I would have to take any, but I'm not disappointed that I did. So as I was off of the Zoloft, I would still feel like I had a lot of anxiety still going on, but that I was handling it better. And I steadily have gotten better, even going up until now. I still occasionally have some days where I'm anxious, but I feel like I'm getting a lot closer to where I'm just like a normal person who gets anxiety sometimes, But it was pretty awful for a long time. And by the time, you can watch my progression of the videos, I'd say I started making the videos 11 months ago, and I was starting to get in a good place, but not quite there yet. And then, what's it been? Now this is almost September. So 8 months, a year and 8 months, is that 20 months approximately I'm up to now. And maybe I took my first nap maybe 9 months ago, something like that. But started being in a silent room sometimes, in the last several months, and being okay with that. So something like that. But I remember also talking to people about how long it took them. And it's not uncommon for it to take a year and a half or so to get where you're almost just habituated, no worries anymore. It's just fine. And I'm no worries and just fine most of the time without any medication either, which is really awesome. So that's I don't always remember dates and things very well. I need to keep better notes, and that probably would enhance my memory. That's something I've been wanting to do. But anyways, that's a little bit about the time it took to get habituated. And I would say May, which was 5 months in, I was starting to get a little better, but didn't realize it. And I would say by sometime around November, about 11 months into it, I was starting to feel like, I'm having some confidence now that I can do this. And then sometime around, February, March, I was starting to feel like, hey, I'm doing pretty good with this. I still notice it a lot, but I'm pretty good. So that's like more than a year into it. And then maybe by then I was starting to be able to sleep, take naps, things like that, and my anxiety levels had gone way down. So addressing the anxiety is one of the things too, and that's where it can be a combination of just working on your thoughts, and like I do a lot of videos about knowing that you're safe, you're safe, and then possibly medication. If you're still just not quite getting there. I was really scared of medication, and I just like to say a couple things about medication since I raised it. I always like to say this. I took less of the medication than was prescribed by the psychiatrist. And I talked to him about that. I said I want to move in slowly. And then I also backed off very slowly. I was cutting pills to just little pieces and taking those because I don't like taking a lot of medication. I don't know, it just seems kind of weird. I know some people need it, and some people, like, they take Zoloft, say, all their life, and nothing bad happens to them. And actually, as I understand, the studies are pretty decent, and it doesn't do much. But I'd just rather not be on it. But it helped me, I think, to get in a good place. But working on the thoughts is where it's at if you can. Because the medication just can help you just sort of chill a little bit while you work on your thoughts. But if you can avoid the medication and just work on your thoughts, and I love tinnitus, it's so beautiful. I love the sound. I'm safe and everything's fine. I don't care. If you get to that place, that's a much better place than, if you can get there more quickly than needing to supplement with the medication, that would be better. Okay, so that's something. I don't know how great it was, but hopefully it's helpful to some people. Okay, I'll see you.